All right, we got a big update on the Fairhill 5. Will Finley, a columnist for TDN, was able to get in touch with trainer Angel Juarez. One of the interesting things we learned in the TDN article, it says here, at Saratoga, trainer Ernesto Ochoa won 2 races with horses coming off layoffs and showing works at Fairhill. Juarez confirmed to the TDN that he trained both horses before they were sold to Ochoa by their owner. Ochoa does not have stalls at Fairhill. So this means that trainer Angel Juarez had each one of the Fairhill 5. Now the 2 Ernesto Ochoa horses that romped at Saratoga, here is the first of them, Classic Rock. You see a July 29th workout at Fairhill there. So Angel Juarez has them for these workouts. If you believe his story, they decide they're going to sell them to Ernesto Ochoa. Ochoa's the owner trainer. So Ernesto Ochoa is like this obscure trainer. Coming into this race, he's 23 for 297 lifetime. That's 7.7% wins. So essentially what you have here, you have a trainer who wins at less than 8% lifetime. He's buying the horse. He's the owner. He's only had the horse for a couple days. He puts the horse in a maiden 35 at Saratoga. 10-1 morning line gets bet down to 8-1, and it gets bumped at the start, wins with authority, wins by 8 3/4 lengths, gets a 91 buyer, which is an explosive number for a maiden 35. The horse that runs second, Main Thing, is 6 lengths clear of the third place finisher. The third place finisher is almost 3 lengths clear of the fourth place finisher. If you believe the numbers, this horse Main Thing run fast enough to win a good maiden 35 at Saratoga and got absolutely dominated by this horse. Now here's where things continue to get weird. So Ernesto Ochoa comes right back and wins with MB's Melanie Cares. This horse's last work was August 4th at Fairhill, worked a half mile in 50 3/5. And again, we know from the Bill Finley article that Angel Juarez had this horse at Fairhill. So this horse works for Angel Juarez on August 4th, works this slow half. Angel Juarez or his owner decides they're going to sell the horse to Ernesto Ochoa. So Ochoa ends up buying this horse, and he's entered like literally within hours of this workout. This is August 4th. He's entered the morning of August 5th in this race. He buys the horse. He's a new owner. He enters him August 5th. You know, he's only had this horse for a few days. 12-1 odds. It romps, wins by 3.5 lengths. Another great buy. Boy, this Ernesto Ochoa, he makes some great buys. And again, this is a trainer that wins at less than 8% lifetime. He has a 7.7 win percentage coming into this, and he goes 2 for 2 at Saratoga with horses running off the screen, not on his training that he's only had for a few days, like he's just bought him a few days earlier. Needless to say, it is pretty darn unusual for an obscure trainer to just buy horses, throw them in, and have them run off the screen at Saratoga. Now, this very same day at Monmouth Park, Angel Juarez is, performing a miracle here. Look at this horse, the Great Amira. The Great Amira's had 2 lifetime starts and finished a long way dead last in both races, tailed off dead last in both races. She is off for 7 months, has these 3 workouts here at Fairhill, half in 50 3, half in 50 4, half in 51 2. Not exactly encouraging. It looks like you're going the wrong way. But the Great Amira is 20-1 morning line, gets bet down to 17-1, runs off to win by 9 lengths. The track announcer correctly said she won like a 1-5 shot. You see the 63 buyer figure here. She went 111 flat. The feature race on this card was an allowance race at 6 furlongs in 110 flat. Only 1 full second faster for that 5-1 shot Chad Brown trained allowance winner in the feature. And if you look at the betting in that race, there's over $157,000 in the win play show pool, and the Great Amira actually pays less to place than she does to show. That's very unusual when you got a win play show pool of over $157,000. Now, the very next race on this Monmouth Park card, another Angel Juarez horse who was 9-2 morning line. This one wins, pays $960 to win, $520 to place, and $540 to show. So you have another horse. So you have another Angel Juarez trained winner paying less to place than it did to show. The daily double payout starting in this race with the Great Amira. The Great Amira is 20-1 morning line. This horse is 9-2 morning line. The Great Amira pays $37.20 to win. This horse pays $9.60 to win. The double comes back $12.80 for $1. The very next race, a 2-1 shot wins. In this pick three, $37.20, $9.60, and a 2-1 shot who pays like $6.20. That pick three pays like $79 for $1. So you've got very unusual betting activity in this sequence. And looking at these payoffs in this betting activity, you might think like, boy, this is amateurishly done if it's a betting coup. And it's certainly possible that a bookmaker placed large win place bets on these horses, bet the double to kind of protect themselves from the liability of these two horses winning. So hypothetically, let's say I was tasked with investigating this. I'd want to know where big win place bets on these two horses came from. I want to know where the big double bet on these two horses came from. I think if you were able to identify where the big win place bets came from and where the daily double bet came from, all that's really going to do is kind of give you a clue if this was bookmakers laying off liability or if this was just like stable money. The Pollock Report did their reporting on this story, and in their article they wrote, observers present at Saratoga on Sunday told Pollock Report that Giuseppe Iadisernia's son was in the Saratoga winner's circle for at least one of the wins. So this was kind of an interesting piece to add there in the Pollock Report. And I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing this name right, Giuseppe Iadisernia, but I remember him as the owner and trainer of horses that ran for the big stable, and they made a big splash at Gulfstream in 2007. You see this Washington Post article here from Andy Beyer. It says owner Iadisernia's second career is generating electricity on the track. The article opens with when a long shot named Margarita Kid ran away with a race at Gulfstream Park, horse players knew that there were two possible explanations for the performance. Either the victory was a total fluke, or it had been orchestrated by a consummate wise guy. And again, this is a 19-year-old article, and the rest of it's behind a paywall. But I do remember the big stable and Giuseppe, pulling off a couple of impressive wins with long shots in 2007 at Gulfstream. And interestingly enough, this gentleman, Giuseppe, did win a poker tournament on the World Poker Tour, $611,700. This was January of 2026. You see him here. And if you do a Google image search for him, you see a lot of pictures of him at a poker table. A very successful poker player, apparently, and also a horse trainer and owner. So anyway, it is kind of interesting that this guy has ties to Angel Juarez, and it is interesting, that his son was in the winner's circle with the Ernesto Ochoa horse at Saratoga. Just maybe kind of an interesting coincidence to the story. And then you have this tweet here by Peter Fornatail at Looms Boldly. He says, why are so many calling them the Fairhill Five when there were 6 of them? And the 6th horse he mentions is a horse named Winston Wolfe, who ran in the 4th at Colonial and finished 2nd. And so here are the past performances for Winston Wolfe. Winston Wolfe was claimed September of last year for $16,000 by Angel Juarez. Didn't run back till March, had one race on the turf and, just trailed the whole way, was last at every call, finished a tailed off last. And this horse was off from March 1st until August 9th and did have Fairhill workout lines for Juarez, but ended up running for trainer Monica Magui. So this one went for owner-trainer Monica Magui. You see 8% career trainer. She's like consistently, in that 8 to 6% neighborhood for win percentage. And Winston Wolfe did not win. Winston Wolfe finished 2nd, did get a nice 72 buyer. It says swung 5 wide, rallied, was 8-1 on the morning line, ended up going off at 5-1 odds. The favorite beat it. The favorite beat it home. You had the 2 favorites, 1st and 3rd, and it was like 7 1/4 back. So it ran a good race, but nothing like completely remarkable. But it is pretty tough to get a horse ready off a long layoff for 8.5 furlongs on the dirt. When its last dirt race was 10.5 months ago. So that is Winston Wolfe for owner-trainer Monica Magui. And interestingly enough, and for whatever it's worth, I did get this account at Magui Monica Magui, did follow me about a few hours after my post, and assuming this account is her, joined September 22nd, and I was the first person she followed, so it's kind of strange. But anyway, August 9th, certainly a very interesting day for horses that Angel Juarez had been preparing off a long layoff at Fairhill. In total, he struck with 4 winners, 2 at Monmouth, 2 at Saratoga. All of the horses went significantly forward off their last race. So the question becomes, was it a betting coup? And certainly without question, I think the answer is yes. Yes, it was a betting coup.